Anyone have sudden, stabbing hunger pains with long COVID? I woke up this morning with sudden, excruciating, knife-to-the-gut hunger pains. It's like all of the hunger I should have experienced over the last 5 weeks stacked up, and I felt it all at once. Now I feel terrible and am shaking all over. Anyone have exaggerated hunger/fullness? When I'm hungry, as in haven't eaten in like 3 hours, my body has this extreme hunger reaction. It's like I haven't eaten in a day, I feel fatigued, weak, and my vision gets a little weird. Then after I eat, even if it's a pretty standard meal, it's like I just ate a huge turkey dinner. I feel very full, sleepy, not fatigued, and I can feel the food in my stomach for hours afterwards. Anyone have messed up hunger cues since COVID? I was infected in early 2021, and ever since then, it's like I don't get full, can eat to the point that I'm stuffed, but by then it's too late. Before 2021, my hunger cues were normal. I gained a lot of weight because of this, but am losing now. I had tests done for common things that can cause extreme hunger, diabetes, thyroid issues, but blood work has come back normal. Anyone else experiencing this? Excessive hunger. I've suffered from mainly no appetite for my whole long COVID journey up until now. I've been constantly hungry even though I lie in bed all day. It's like all I can think about is food. I've had some odd hunger fluctuations during long COVID, but nothing like this. It's driving me insane and I literally can't sleep because of it. I feel like my symptoms have been flipped from anxiety, tachycardia, insomnia, no appetite, to depression, bradycardia, hypersomnia, extreme appetite, and I can't decide which one is worse. I've tried everything I have at home, from drinking liters of water to high protein bars. Issues with hunger. Hi everybody, I am a relatively mild case compared to many people in here, but has anybody developed serious issues with hunger after COVID? Like, I have to eat every 3 hours, otherwise I feel just horrible, and my blood sugar looks fine. Hello there, and welcome. Calliope here, and what it says on the tin. I have a rare complication from COVID that I've talked about maybe 2 or 3 times on the channel, only when I absolutely had to, when it forced me to take an involuntary hiatus. And I've talked more about it on Patreon. I keep that a little more updated, but I have run out of options in terms of trying to get this figured out. In my mind, I wanted to do all of this behind the scenes and not have to tell anybody, and I would just get it fixed. I did everything in my power to do that. I think I got up to 16 or 17 medical professionals in 5 years. I completely drained my entire life savings, and then I went into debt for thousands more after that. And in the end, actually, I was the one who figured out a whole lot of it, which that isn't to say that, all the tests and stuff that I did weren't helpful, because that ruled out like literally everything. But there is this phenomenon with people that have these sort of mystery diseases that they end up being the ones to figure out what's going on. We're the ones who have the inside look at everything. The only problem with this is that I don't have anywhere to go with this. I had been trying to get into my state of Iowa, our only long COVID clinic, and I had been trying to do that for a few years now. I finally did get accepted a couple of months ago. And then I got a call a few days later that they were no longer accepting patients because they had lost 5 doctors, and that I could try to call back at some point in the year, but it wasn't likely going to change. And that was really my only option left. I mean, me and my PCP are trying like what we can, and luckily I have had a lot of success with being on naltrexone, like to the point where actually I did start physical therapy a few weeks ago, and I cried after because I haven't been able to exercise. Like, I've been medically barred from exercising or really doing anything for 5 years, and I was an extremely active individual. I would go kayaking. I had a physical labor job, and I would walk 15,000 steps, and then we'd go on a 13-mile bike ride after that. We went hiking. We did like everything. I am always, or I guess I was always on the move, always doing something, always having projects, always doing all these things. I was larger than life, and then I wasn't. So that's where y'all come in. The only thing I need here, the absolute only thing, I just need information. Because I had found something very special to me, which was I've been fighting and fighting and fighting to get people to take me seriously, to believe me when I say that this isn't made up at all. And I did finally see one endocrinologist a few years ago who had said that she actually had seen multiple patients with my exact symptoms. And she did refer them out, which she did for me too. Unfortunately, there were some issues with the referral, and I didn't get referred for what I was supposed to, and it ended up going nowhere. So I knew that it was real. I knew other people were experiencing it, but I didn't have any proof. And then finally, about a year ago, people on Reddit specifically, this was the easiest place to find people that this was happening to. People started posting about having these same exact symptoms. Unfortunately, I seem to have a very severe case of this, but there is post after post after post after post of people who are experiencing the same exact thing that I am. So it was vindicating, but unfortunately, there is nothing about if anyone has been able to treat this at all. Some people say that their symptoms got better with time. Mine have only gotten much, much worse with time, so that's not quite right. But from here on out, I am going to read something that I wrote a couple of months ago, because I've actually been meaning to do this video for about a year now, and that'll keep me from going on tangents and whatnot. I do have really bad ADHD, and one of the only ways I could treat that was exercise. So having 5 years of not being able to do that at all, it's not great. So, editor's note here, my ADHD is unmedicated, partially because there is no access in my area. I had tried for years and years and years to find someone who would work with me on trying to treat my ADHD, but I live in rural Iowa, so there's like nobody here that does that. But I'm also unable to be medicated because I have contraindications that even preceded the long COVID thing. So I have to do the coping strategies thing and the exercise thing. I'm not sure how to organize this to the highest efficacy. So how this is going to go is that I'm going to state the problem, my current diagnoses, and then the background of the disease. But just know that I need to explain a whole lot because there is unfortunately a whole lot. I've been to 16 to 17 medical professionals with specialists in multiples like 3 gastroenterologists, 2 endocrinologists, 2 neurologists, so on and so forth. I've tried to get into the Mayo Clinic back before I aged out of having decent health insurance, but it was a very hostile and humiliating experience that actually kept me from seeking medical help for anything for a year, like to the point where I had family members who were begging me to be seen by somebody for just anything. So here it is. Every medical professional has, on their own, nicknamed this diabetes without the blood sugar. I have a never-ending sense of starvation, like a permanent 6 to 7 out of 10 on the pain scale for hunger pangs that don't go away even after I eat, and I don't have the ability to go without eating for more than 5 hours. Yes, this means that I also wake up in the middle of the night at least once a month at best because my body starts going through an episode and I have to eat to make it stop. On top of that, it has to be a specific amount of food or things go extremely wrong, extremely fast. The longest I've gone in 5 years is 6 hours without eating. It follows the same exact pattern every time. Within 5 to 10 minutes of fasting for 5 hours, the hunger pain ratchets up to a 9 to 10 out of 10. I start getting internal tremors. My mind starts fading, getting much less lucid, and my body starts getting really weak really fast. Within 5 to 10 minutes after that, I start shaking uncontrollably, like a low blood sugar thing. Right after that, all my muscles start locking up. And I mean all of them, not just my legs and my arms, but even my abdominal muscles, my intercostal muscles, even my eye muscles. I can't move my eyes and they can't even focus in and out, like the ciliary muscles stop working. I can move just a little, but it is so painful, and if something were to happen, like an emergency, I wouldn't be able to walk or really even do anything. I will start getting confused and slurring my speech, and I've been told that I don't make any sense when this happens. I'm barely lucid by this point, and my vision starts getting dark, and it feels like my lungs can't process oxygen. I can't breathe, even though my lungs are still expanding and contracting, albeit very, very shallowly at this point. It feels like I'm a fish on land or trying to breathe underwater, which I've learned recently is called air hunger, another complication of long COVID. I've never fully gone unconscious because by the time it's ever reached that point, someone is forcing me to eat. It will take about 20 minutes before symptoms very slowly start to dissipate when I start eating, if it gets to that point. But I will stay weak, shaky, unable to breathe properly because it's like my lungs can't use the oxygen I'm breathing, and with all of my muscles incredibly sore and heavy for at least a few days, if not for a week or 2. So at the time of filming this, I hadn't had an episode like that in months. And then a few days after filming, I ended up having another episode, and it actually didn't make any sense. Like, I did everything right, so it shouldn't have happened. It was really, really scary. But some things that I had forgotten that happen during these episodes is I have completely uncontrollable sweating, and I start getting like a really bad tension headache. Like, it feels like someone is pulling on all of my hair, and it's on my forehead. I mean, it's like classic tension headache presentation, but like so bad you can't even think. And also the heart pounding, the palpitations, but not necessarily speeding up. So it almost feels like slower, maybe, sometimes. But it's like really, really hard. Like my heart is slamming in my chest, even though it's not going faster, if that makes any sense. So this definitely feels like it definitely has a link with the dysautonomia, because with the uncontrollable sweating, that's like one of my big things I deal with dysautonomia is the temperature issues. My body cannot regulate temperature correctly, and the heart issues. Like, I have terrible heart palpitations directly from dysautonomia. I've had like so many workups, and my heart functionally is okay, but the dysautonomia makes it feel like it's constantly skipping beats, it's constantly doing double beats, it's just all over the place, even though that's not actually what's going on. I've had so many blood draws over the years that the veins in my cubital fossas here are all rubbery and are unable to be drawn from anymore. Every single time I've had my panels done, my actual blood sugar is perfect. I've had several draws while I am actively experiencing an episode, and my blood sugar is still perfect. My thyroid numbers are perfect. It's not diabetes, it's not a thyroid problem, but our money is on that it is still metabolic. There is still much more to this disease, but I want to rule out a bunch of things off the bat. The conditions I had before COVID are as such: hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, chronic idiopathic urticaria or chronic hives, asthma triggered by stress, activity, and cold temperatures, anything below 60 degrees and I start having an attack, endometriosis. I was diagnosed as ADHD-I or inattentive, but it's very more likely that it's ADHD-C, and ASD level 1. Oh, and I have a 1 centimeter cyst on my pineal gland in my brain. Love that. I did actually have this low blood sugar issue occasionally throughout my life, where a few hours after eating, I would start getting really weak, shaky, couldn't think straight, couldn't walk right, and wouldn't go away until I ate. But again, actual blood sugar is perfect. I'm not sure if it was what I ate specifically that caused it, considering I now have a carbohydrate intolerance. Also, my biological father was told he had hypoglycemia by doctors, I believe, but I don't know if it was actual hypoglycemia or if it was the same thing that I experienced. It happened maybe once a year or once every couple of years, very rare, but very similar to what's happening at all times now. I also, my entire life, had a 2 to 4 out of 10 insatiable hunger that wouldn't stop even after eating unless it was a very heavy meal, and sometimes got worse after eating like an apple or a granola bar, which is also very similar, except this was more annoying and made me feel sick as opposed to being completely debilitating. It was like this constant buzz of hunger, but I found if I didn't eat for long enough, that it would go away. I have a lot of issues with eating that I'll touch on in a bit. So after COVID, I was diagnosed with a carbohydrate intolerance, dysautonomia, moderate chronic fatigue, so I am primarily housebound. It's very difficult to get around my house, and I don't get to leave often. But when it first started, I was essentially bedbound, so we have downgraded a bit. And with my medications, we're kind of starting to try to do more things. I still can't do things like mix a bowl, and it's very difficult to do things like laundry because clothes are so heavy. Basically, if a 3-year-old can do it, I probably can, but not much more than that. Now, this has changed a little bit. I am kind of vacillating between mild and moderate chronic fatigue as a result of my naltrexone. When I wrote this, I had just started it, and now I've been on it for a couple of months. And so that's why I was able to finally start physical therapy. And I still cannot do very much, but I am starting to get more stamina and endurance back. So it looks like maybe at some point I will be able to do these things. It's probably, I was told it's going to take at least 4 to 5 months to start with the level that I was at. I have severe gastroesophageal reflux disease that is not controlled well by medication. I have a vitamin D deficiency and a zinc deficiency of all things, which one of the symptoms of is appetite loss, which is a boon for me. When I've tried to treat the zinc deficiency before, I had 10 out of 10 hunger pain to the point where I was bedbound for 3 days because of the pain. I couldn't move, or the hunger pain would increase to the point where I about blacked out. Funnily enough, I do get more than 100% of my intake of zinc from my diet, so that one is weird. And an endocrinologist found that my body stopped producing estrogen, likely because of my diet. So I'm on the medication AVN for that, which did fix that problem very nicely. I was also tested numerous times for PCOS because of that, but I am very firmly negative. My testosterone levels were normal, but the estrogen levels were not. I also take 40 milligrams of famotidine twice a day, 1 gram of sucralfate 4 times a day, 25 milligrams of naltrexone once a day, 300 milligrams of CoQ10, a vitamin B complex medicine, 4,000 IU of vitamin D, and 500 milligrams of vitamin C. Oh, and I lost a lot of vision and hearing after COVID, and my eyes no longer work together, so I have to wear prism glasses. It's permanent double vision here, and actually my eyesight is getting a lot worse, but I can't do anything about it because I don't have vision insurance. My ASD and ADHD also got much, much, much worse, but it did allow me to actually get diagnosed because it had gotten so bad. So there's that. I had pursued getting diagnosed for ASD since I was 19, and I actually got diagnosed with ADHD even before then, and I wasn't pursuing that. The carbohydrate intolerance means that my diet is extremely limited, especially because of the gastroesophageal reflux disease. So I basically can only eat some leafy greens, some nuts like peanuts and almonds, a couple types of vegetables, cheese, some meats, and eggs. I can only drink water except for 1 cup of decaf green tea after dinner, but if I try to drink tea any other time, the hunger pangs start increasing again, and I will start shaking and feeling weak. My limit is 15 grams of carbs per meal, or a daily total of 45 grams. If I go over the meal limit or the daily limit, I get all the same symptoms I do when I go too long without eating, so the shaking and the weakness and the muscle locking and the starvation, plus it adds the intolerance symptoms on top of it. Not fun. I actually will have the episodes happen if I throw up or if I overexert myself as well. No one knows why I have a carbohydrate intolerance because I do produce the enzymes to break them down because I was tested for pancreatic insufficiency. So there's not really a medical reason why my body can't use carbs except COVID. And this will come up later as well. How I treat the diabetes without the blood sugar thing is that I eat at least every 5 hours, and it has to be a specific amount of grams of fat in each meal. I weigh everything. I weigh everything to the chagrin of everyone around me. Add up the fat content. I keep a log, and I really haven't deviated in years from what I eat because I've already done the math. If I go even a gram or 2 below, I will be weak and shaking with the brain fog and all that until I eat a full meal again. This also means that I can't go to restaurants or anything like that. I used to be able to very occasionally have a grilled chicken salad from Culver's because they post their nutritional guide, so I was able to do the math on that. They have since changed how they make the chicken, so it's really, really gross now. So I have absolutely no options for food except making everything by hand. I don't have any frozen food options. I really don't even have any canned food options. It's all made from scratch every single meal. When I first got sick, it didn't take a lot of fat, but I didn't figure out that the only value that mattered was the fat content until it hit 35 grams of fat per meal, which means yes, over time the disease progresses. It usually progresses because I've gotten sick or I've overextended myself quite a bit. The longest I've gone between progressions is 2 years. The last progression I had was September of 2023. A curious thing about the disease, however, is that it caused severe and rapid weight gain even in the very beginning when I ate 1,400 calories and worked out about an hour per day for 6 months, which absolutely made the chronic fatigue terrible, and I would be bedbound for the entire rest of the day. It seems that was when I gained weight the fastest, and that was before I was diagnosed with a carbohydrate intolerance. It was also when the symptoms were their worst. So I was basically shaking at all times, 10 out of 10 hunger at all times, constant muscle locking up. My headcanon is that my body couldn't use the carbohydrates as energy, so I was having permanent symptoms, and since it couldn't use the energy, it stored it instead. Another curious thing is that when I started naltrexone at 5 milligrams, for the very first time in 5 years, there were few times where I didn't experience the starvation feeling. I thought maybe my brain's hunger signal was broken up until that point, but I still started getting the same exact symptoms I usually do if I don't eat, just without the hunger. So the hunger signal is intact, and it is actually legitimate. My body seems to be actually starving because it can't convert or use or something but a fraction of the energy I get from food, and it has to store what it can't use. And now that I've been on 25 grams of naltrexone for a few months now, I still have that hunger feeling all the time. Instead of being like a 6 to 7 out of 10, I would say it's like a 4 to 5 out of 10 most of the time. And sometimes I do wake up where I don't experience the hunger, but I do experience the other symptoms. I start getting really weak, really dizzy, and the shaking and whatnot if I don't eat immediately. With all of this, there is a very special caveat that I cannot emphasize enough. I hate eating. I spent a decade of my life trying to eat as little as possible, in part because it is a sensory nightmare, which, AFRID actually looked pertinent to me, and it would only make me feel even more pain. And if I didn't eat, the hunger and the pain eventually went away. After I got sick, I started to hate it so much that I would regularly break down about the fact that with the next meal I eat, I will be in an immense amount of pain and it will just make me even sicker. My esophagus is completely mutilated from the effects of this disease as well. I'm on the maximum amount of gastroesophageal reflux disease medicines my body will tolerate, and I cut out so much food from my already limited diet that made it worse, and I am still throwing up stomach acid in my mouth constantly, and my throat is so burnt from constant acid that it is always swollen and feels like I'm being choked at all times. This has gotten just a little bit better with the naltrexone. I'm still throwing up stomach acid in my mouth quite a bit, and my throat is still always swollen. The pain it's like having strep throat permanently. So it's a little bit better than like you're swallowing glass all the time, I guess. It's not great. I was told by a gastroenterologist that with my level of gastroesophageal reflux disease, I will be developing esophageal cancer. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when, they said. And that was 2 years ago. It also means it takes me a minimum of 1 hour to generally closer to 2 hours to eat a single meal because of how much pain I'm in. My lunch actually just took me 1 hour and 45 minutes with me eating as fast as I could. I've done so many tests and imaging and gone to multiple speech pathologists to be told that functionally my throat works, but I can't eat properly because of the pain. There is almost nothing that actually tastes good because of my extremely limited diet, eliminating carbohydrates. I haven't had something resembling dessert in years. I haven't had a piece of fruit in almost 5 years now. I want nothing more than to figure out this disease and then not eat for at least 3 days. I don't care if I still have a permanent carbohydrate intolerance. I just don't want to eat. It just makes me sicker. Now, I'm going to give you some background into how this all started because it will segue into what my PCPs and I have put together. I got COVID on November 16th, 2020. My most severe symptoms were that I couldn't breathe to the point where I was barely conscious for 3 weeks because it felt like I was breathing wisps of air through a straw, aka air hunger, and the fatigue. I couldn't stand, I couldn't walk. I had the disease for 3 weeks. Extraordinarily slowly, I started to kind of recover. What I mean by that is about 2.5 to 3 weeks later, my health took a huge nosedive. I started noticing that after I ate, it didn't make the hunger go away. I drank a soda pop one night and the brain fog started first, and then the shaking and the muscle weakness, and then the slurring. I was on the phone with my mama, and she said that I was scaring the hell out of her because I wasn't making any sense, and I couldn't stop slurring. I thought it was a low blood sugar thing, so because I had drank a soda pop on an empty stomach, so I ate a whole bunch of things like yogurt, granola bars, carrots, crackers, things like that. And the slurring stopped, but I still felt weak, shaky, and had the brain fog. Then the day that it became the full-blown problem, I woke up at 3 a.m. with the 10 out of 10 starvation pains with uncontrollable shaking, my muscles locked up and unable to breathe despite taking deep breaths. And I mean, of course, this is anxiety-inducing, but I've had years and years at this point of, developing coping skills and whatnot. I can take myself out of a panic attack within minutes. This is not the anxiety thing, because I know the difference between what I've always done as an anxiety attack versus what this is. I started eating again to resolve it like I did the last time, but this time it didn't stop. From that day onward, it never stopped. I stayed up the rest of that night and got into an urgent care clinic at 9 a.m. The first thought was diabetes, then hyperthyroidism. They did so many blood tests and I was there for hours. Absolutely none of my numbers were wrong. My blood sugar was perfect. My hormone levels were perfect. Yet I was shaking and slurring my words and no one could figure out what was wrong with me. Until I figured out that the amount of fat content was the driving force between triggering an episode or not, I basically just ate when the symptoms started until they went away and kept a log on how much it took and weighed it out so I could do that the next time. Usually it was peanuts I kept on hand. I found out that if I became ill, my body needed much more food to get to a baseline than usual, and when I recovered, it slowly went back to the normal amount I needed. For example, when I first developed gastroesophageal reflux disease, I tried to use omeprazole to control it like I've done every 2 years since I was 16. This time it went extremely wrong. It made it so that I had to eat 9 times a day for a total of 5,000 calories to control the episodes. I got 1 to 2 hours of sleep for 3 weeks. After I got off the omeprazole, my body started going back to the baseline, but the baseline rose higher from 1,800 calories before to 2,300 calories after. This is where I figured out what I needed at that point, which was 35 grams of fat per meal. What was notable is that omeprazole can cause malabsorption, so I wonder if that was why I needed 3 times as much food, because my body wasn't absorbing any of it, and this would have been 3 or 4 years ago that happened. Every time I experience major illness, which means I am bedbound for at least a few days, I get this rebound effect happen. I mentioned after the original COVID infection, I started to recover until about 3 weeks after, and then my health took a nosedive. This pattern kept repeating. I would get severely ill, start to recover, and 2 to 3 weeks later, my health would take another nosedive. I kept getting told by every single medical professional that it was not medically possible, but that wasn't correct. There is a kind of disease that does that specific thing. So now we'll get into what my PCPs and I have ferreted out. Again, I'm not pulling things out of my ass. I brought this to multiple medical professionals to make sure I'm not being stupid. August 2023, the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia publishes a study on COVID and mitochondrial dysfunction/impairment, stating that they knew early on that COVID fucked up mitochondria, but they now had oodles of that evidence. So I started searching mitochondrial disorders and diseases, which fall under metabolic conditions. What's one of the hallmarks of mitochondrial disease? The rebound effect of starting to recover after illness and 2 to 3 weeks later, your health taking a nosedive. Now wait, what do the mitochondria do? The powerhouse of the cell, they convert oxygen, carbohydrates, and fat into energy that your body can use. I have a carbohydrate intolerance, even though my body has the enzymes to break down carbohydrates. My body isn't either using or converting most of the fat that I get from food. When the symptoms start, my body can't process oxygen either, even though my lungs are perfectly healthy aside from the stress-related asthma. No matter how deep a breath I take, no matter how normal my lungs are acting, it's like I'm breathing in absolutely nothing. The symptoms of mitochondrial diseases/disorders, whatever, line up very much with the symptoms I experience, whereas absolutely nothing else that's been tested for the past 5 years has. It is also progressive, and my disease has a history of being progressive as well. There is no clinical treatment, but there were supplements that could be taken to support mitochondrial function, and when I started taking them, it made a gigantic world of difference. My body started being able to heal again, which was an interesting thing because prior to that, it would take my body weeks to months to heal like a simple cut. I had actually had a cut right here that my cat had scratched me, and before I got on these medicines, it took 3.5 months to heal, and I got a cut right here, right next to it, same cat, same scratch, and after I got on these medicines, it took 2 weeks. And there was still a scar right here from the other cut, so I guess it hadn't fully healed actually, and that disappeared as well. I had so much more energy, the brain fog went almost completely away, etc. So treating for it worked. Here's the problems. First off, to diagnose mitochondrial disease/disorders, you have to do spinal taps, muscle biopsies, and organ biopsies. That's not accessible to me. Second off, there's no one in Iowa that deals in mitochondrial diseases. The closest place is, drumroll, the Mayo Clinic. I have state insurance for now. We'll see with what happened on July 3rd in the US. I don't know that I will have insurance anymore. Like, I pay for probably half of my medicines out of pocket. There are none of my medications I can go off of, or I'm not functioning at best. I mean, I really broke it down and I was like, are there any medicines that I can afford not to take? And I can't. So I have 6 months to figure that out, and I don't know what I'm gonna do. So that's why I'm like doing this push to try to figure out this shit now, so that when this all hits the fan, that like, you know, it's not as bad as it could be, hopefully. They've already rejected me very wholeheartedly because they wouldn't listen to me and kept telling me I have an endocrine problem. You know, after seeing 2 endocrinologists and heaps of blood tests with normal endocrine numbers that I told them over and over and over again, and they wouldn't stop talking over me. Third problem, it is incurable. It might have some supplements that help a bit, which I am already on, but it is clinically untreatable, and it is progressive, and from what I've read, a lot of times it does not end very well at all. I'm hoping that there is a chance that, yes, this is essentially what's going on, but it's slightly different because it's from COVID, like the difference between ME/CFS and long COVID chronic fatigue. Then maybe there is a way to treat it. Maybe there is a way I get more time. Maybe there is a way I don't have to be in so much pain all the time. Maybe there is a way I can get back to recognizing myself in the mirror. Maybe there's a way that other people can recognize me again. The complications of this disease that I have, this rare complication of COVID, are too many to list. I can't have surgery at all because one needs to fast for that or they'll aspirate into their lungs and die. So even though I have multiple issues that need surgery, I can't get help for that, for example. So that's what I need help with. Is this something I can actually do anything about? Does anyone have this? Has anything helped? All I'm asking for is information. And I don't want to be here asking for information. I tried to do it the right way. I put myself into financial ruin trying to do it the right way, but I just can't. I don't have really anywhere else to go. But I'm bringing this up now because I have my annual physical with my PCP in August. So I was hoping that if I had a little bit of time before then, that maybe I could get some information. We could talk about it. She's really great. She's a wonderful problem solver. She has absolutely no problem just throwing solutions at the wall and seeing if it sticks. That's the reason I got on 25 milligrams of naltrexone, because 5 milligrams was not working for me. And we had kind of a hypothesis that because of my Ehlers-Danlos, I don't respond to opiate medications at all. Nobody in my family does. We all have Ehlers-Danlos. So since naltrexone deals with opioid receptors, I believe, it was a hypothesis that maybe I just needed a bigger dose and that might help, and it really, really did. So I'm hoping that maybe I can bring some information back to her and we can figure something out. Maybe we can make a difference, because I've been able to make a lot of headway for the first time in 5 years with my chronic fatigue. And I think that maybe I might be able to hit my 30s. My one wish was just that I could see my brothers grow up, and I think I'm going to be able to do that. And I haven't been able to have that opportunity realistically for 5 years. So I'm hoping that maybe we can get this figured out, and maybe I can ensure that is not going to get in my way. So I'd like to thank you very much for listening. And again, the only thing I need is information. That is it. I don't need absolutely anything else from anybody, just information. I just want to get this figured out on my own. Obviously with help that I'm asking for, but I don't need anything else. I just want to know what's going on, and if I can get it fixed, or at least treated, can we at least make it a little bit better? So I hope you have a whale of a day and a good rest of your night.